Welcome back to 7th Grade Mustache. On today's episode, we'll be speaking about cheap art, low expectations. In May of 2024, 30 U.S. state and district attorneys joined the U.S. Department of Justice in filing a civil antitrust lawsuit against Live Nation. Live Nation is the parent company of Ticketmaster. Live Nation and Ticketmaster is accused of monopolizing the live concert ticket industry. Their business practices have harmed the fans, musicians, and venues.
Was it an antitrust lawsuit?
Yes.
Okay, just verifying. Okay.
30 states, 30 U.S. states. It's crazy. That's a lot of people pissed off.
You got to understand what a government does in antitrust. That means that somebody has manipulated the market so thoroughly. There's no way for competition. There's no other company out there. In real talk, when you think of buying tickets, you think of Ticketmaster. You don't think of nobody else. That was like that for almost 20 years. So what they do is they hurt the market by crushing the competition, acquiring the competition, or outright lying and saying that the other people are doing something unscrupulous. But yeah, I can definitely see somebody doing antitrust against Ticketmaster.
In November of 2024, Taylor Swift fans joined together and filed a class action lawsuit against Ticketmaster and Live Nation. Inflated prices and poor customer experiences were behind the class action lawsuit. Taylor Swift fans seek to stop anti-competitive practices employed by Ticketmaster and Live Nation and to restore fair competition to the concert industry. In December of 2024, a class action lawsuit was filed against Ticketmaster and Live Nation in California, alleging monopolistic control over the primary and secondary ticket markets. The lawsuit asserts numerous claims for relief under California law and argues that Ticketmaster punishes customers for not being able to get to the front of the line by increasing prices when the number of tickets get low, and that it deliberately allows scalpers access to tickets, resulting in higher prices for consumers. In 1995, Pearl Jam canceled their arena tour dates due to a dispute with Ticketmaster, which began in 1992 with 2 free concerts in Seattle. Ticketmaster charged a fee of $1 per ticket, which Pearl Jam found acceptable considering this is a free concert. The band decided to distribute the tickets themselves. The band did not play any arenas in 1995, so they didn't cancel their tour. They canceled their arena tour and played smaller venues. For example, they played the Cal Expo in Sacramento in 1995. Back in 1993, 2 years before, they set a maximum price of $18 for their concerts, despite promoters suggesting triple the price. They also reduced the price of their t-shirts, giving up $2 million in revenue. In 1994, Pearl Jam declared that they would only play at venues that respected the maximum price of $18 and fees of less than $1.80. This led to a conflict with Ticketmaster, whose service charge ranged from $4 to $8. The band refused to give in, and because Ticketmaster controlled most of the concert venues, the summer 1994 tour was canceled, resulting in a loss of $3 million.
I just thought about that every time, like, damn, how much of this is actually getting to the artist? You're allowed to charge fees. If Ticketmaster charged maybe a $20 fee and the other $37 or the other $55 went to the artist, you ain't tripping. But when you're hearing these artists were getting just a very small amount, yeah, you got to feel some kind of way about that.
After the release of the Vitalogy album in 1994, Pearl Jam announced a summer tour only at venues not affiliated with Ticketmaster, organizing everything themselves.
They were looking out for their fans. They were looking out for the actual customer. Sometimes I do respect having a middleman, but they were taking advantage. And like I said, later on, you would see these fees they were just getting worse and worse. They never got better. So the fact that the government did an antitrust lawsuit, and you see that Pearl Jam tried to fight this back in the day by themselves.
The fees are not justified. Going from $1 to $2 to $4 to $6, there's nothing that justifies those fees. They're just taking money off the top. They're trying to get extra money in wherever they can. And they're basically getting sued because they're greedy, and they've been busted for being greedy. That's it.
There's nothing wrong with being greedy, but when you get called out on it, at least admit it.
But here's the deal, though. Taylor Swift fans got so pissed off that they got together and created a class action lawsuit. That is the definition of putting your money where your mouth is. I don't like her music at all, but I respect what her fans did.
Again, those are her fans. This ain't Taylor Swift. And like I said, in the back in the day, it was Pearl Jam. But this time, these are the people like, look, you know what? Here's what it is. This is something else that sometimes we don't get. You got fans that go to multiple cities. You got fans going to see her in Seattle.
Deadheads. You got Deadheads like the Grateful Dead. They travel around.
Yeah, and they travel to multiple concerts. It's not they're like, oh, I can't wait to see the LA concert, and fuck, that's dedication. I ain't got that dog in me. I ain't got that kind of shit. But that's definitely that's to be commended.
And those are people that can afford to make it happen, and the people who can't afford to make it happen by creating some type of money that finances that type of subset in their life. So let's talk about sweat equity for a minute. Sweat equity is an ownership interest that a person gains from contributing labor instead of capital. The term is often used in the context of partners who have equity in a partnership earned not from capital contributions, but from rather their contributed labor. Think of it this way. When cash is tight, sweat equity lets you compensate people with a piece of the future pie you're all working to bake. Sweat equity has value. It's on display in the creative arts. Generating revenue from the arts requires an audience or supportive patrons. Fair treatment for artists will ultimately require a major change in how we support the arts. Fortunately, however, we already have an excellent model in support for athletics. Our support for sports is essentially socialist, with local and state governments providing enormous support for professional sports teams. In New York City, taxpayers paid $370 million for the Yankee Stadium, plus $39 million for the nearby rail station to accommodate the crowds. The Met Stadium cost taxpayers $2.21 million. The talent is paid famously well by venues who receive such government support. Now, recently, the university system has changed in the past year, and now you see college athletes being paid to play in college football and college sports. What it's done is change the entire dynamic of these certain areas, like the SEC. These areas that are paying their students, they are getting all of the best students from around the country because they want to get paid, because they know they might get injured and they might not ever even make it to the NFL.
And those NIL deals are way more complicated than people realize. The school can promise it, but somebody else has to pay it. It's like so many layers to it. And ain't nobody running away with it, but they said the writing was on the wall. That's why they said, old boy from Alabama retired. I can't even think of his name. Fuck it. But because they saw this deal coming. And so he tried to accuse Deion Sanders of using that same deal when he was at Jackson State. Like, Jackson State ain't even on your level. But for you to sit here and...
Talking about Nick Saban?
The NIL money goes back a few years. Now, we know Deion Sanders is at Colorado now. But Saban brought this up when Deion was at Jackson State, and I'm like, what the hell? Like, and then you realize this is the same thing with Ticketmaster. You're so big.
Player is a motherfucker.
Is a motherfucker. It's like you're so big, but you don't want to share any light. And people don't understand how much shade they threw on Deion Sanders when he was at Jackson State. And so, first things first, Deion did not start the trend of black athletes going to teach at black schools. He probably was the biggest, but my brother knows I attended Langston University. Cheryl Miller, Reggie Miller's sister, the chick that scored over 100 points when she was in high school, she coached at Langston for like a season. And there were other coaches doing that stuff. But what's so important about the Deion deal, and kind of the reason Deion left, is he had a deal. He paid for their stadium. He said, look, anytime you make over this, make sure you pay me back for the stadium. And that little school, Jackson State, hid money from Deion. Like, hey, he's like, look, I put my own money out here to help y'all, and this is how you repay me. So a lot of people said, oh, that was his plan to leave in the first place. I don't know. Really, based on what he had did in the past.
Doesn't matter. Consider what he did for the school. Don't be some Tommy with your praise for a person, and consider and be grateful what that person has done for the school.
I'm saying he did even more. He came out of pocket to help build their stadium. And he said, just pay me back. You know, you ain't got to pay me back everything. Pay me back something. And they didn't pay him back. They hid the money when they had sales over a certain amount. But again, yeah, let's go back to Saban talking about NIL. So what Saban was accusing Deion was using NIL money to get all those ringers at Jackson State. And I'm like, he had two ringers, which were his sons, and he had that Travis Hunter kid. Now, Travis Hunter, beast, went to Colorado. Colorado was a 1-2 win team, was a 9-10 win team when Deion left.
Got beat by Nebraska that year.
Yeah, they did get beat by Nebraska.
Nebraska stomped that ass.
That's a real rivalry. We have rivalry with Colorado going back decades. But still, it's just the fact that white folks like to accuse you of doing what they're doing. And the fact that Saban
deflection and gaslighting.
Yeah, and they said that's the reason that Saban retired. Is that this NIL money was a big, a big scare to him. He didn't know how he would be able to compete. So again, that's not what this is about. This is about artists, and this is about an example.
Yeah, but I'm using sports as an analogy because it's very similar.
Oh no, it's very similar in the exploitation of the artists. I think that these athletes will make a better deal than a lot of these artists. And don't get me wrong, when it comes to the NFL and these major franchises, that they make way more money on the game than the employee, which is true. But their employees are much better compensated. When you look at the artists, we're talking about music, again. You don't talk about actors being kind of taken advantage of. Some actors come out and they have the Screen Actors Guild, so they actually have a union. So you kind of see them taken care of better. You don't really see one person pop it out. Hey, I got fucked over. No, that Screen Actors Guild kind of looks out for them. So, but when it comes to the music industry, there is no union. There is no group of people looking out for the little guy, making sure that they're paid and they're properly trained. And when I say trained, I'm not talking about their craft.
It's so bad that even Dua Lipa got up at the recent award show and complained about how there really isn't a lot of support for musicians in that way.
Like I said, we're about to get deep into it, but check out the guy. His name is Grogu Roach. He's the one going around getting a lot of these artists' money or their families' money. And he got popular. The way we found out about him is Big Pun's wife was not being paid at all by Fat Joe. And so he goes on this campaign where he's telling, I gave her money for a hairstyle. I gave her money for this. And so now Grogu, what he does, he pays for the court fees. He pays for the costs. They go to court, and then, she gets her money and she pays them back. But what they do to these artists is they give them fake royalty statements. And that wasn't just Big Pun's family. That's all of them. And he said, first of all, you don't know how to read a royalty statement. Second, when you get one, you can't tell if it's bullshit. They give these people royalty statements, and all the royalty statements say that you're in the red, that you owe this company money because we paid for your videos. We did this, we did that.
The only way to really get the accurate numbers on the situation is to audit that company.
Yes, yeah, and that's what this guy is. That's what Grogu Roach does. He does those audits. And a lot of the people that everybody talks about, here's the crazy part: they've been cheated. But let's start slow and start working up. So with the Big Pun, I think he got her like $3 million. She was supposed to get like $16 million, but you only can go back so far. They said. Yeah, you only go back so far and sue. And so, she paid him back, whatever. And when you start seeing these interviews with this guy, one of the most recent ones that's very poignant about what we're talking about now and how the industry keeps these artists ignorant on purpose. And desperate on purpose too, because if you're desperate, that's why they sign some of these deals that don't benefit them. But so I can't remember the name of the podcast, but this guy, he said, I used to work in the music industry. And he's talking to the guy named Grogu, and they're going back and forth. And what he said, it's the craziest thing I saw that I need to bring to everybody's attention. He said, I worked at the Big Three in some capacity at one point in time. There's a Big Three in the music industry. And he said that he saw an artist one time, that was fighting over their royalties, but that artist was getting like maybe 100,000 a year. But and he said this is back in the day, and he's talking to this executive, somebody high up in the company. He said that person's catalog is worth $100 million. He's like, what? He said, yeah. And so he said our biggest goal is to make sure these artists don't know their value or the value of their product. And so he said, I'm working. He said, I guess it was 20 years ago when they had that conversation. And now he said, fast forward to now. He said, think about this. They gave a $400 million deal to Drake. And he said he was talking about 50 Cent. A lot of these other, there are a few rappers out there that were saying like, yeah, Drake is getting screwed over. He just don't know it.
And he's fucking people over because he is collecting money from unclaimed royalties.
I ain't got that far yet, but
from artists that have no association with him at all.
Yeah. So if you don't claim your royalties properly, they'll give them to somebody else. But so what this guy is saying, he said if Drake got 400 million or half a billion, then that means his music is probably worth what, 4 or 5 billion. And the other part, what's so bad is that contract is on future work. It's not on the work you did. They're giving you that bit, and so then all of a sudden now you become, which is what Kendrick was saying, you become the colonizer. But that's a whole other story. What this guy is saying is that if Drake got 400 million, Drake probably should have got a 2 or 3 billion. That company's making 10 billion off him. That 400 million is a very small percentage of what he's actually worth. And so this is so scary because, a lot of these artists are starving. Like I said, the reason I bring up this guy named Grogu, he said that this one artist, she was getting literally like 75,000 a year or 100,000 a year when he audited the company. She was supposed to be getting 300,000 or 400,000 a year from the use of her royalties. That's a big. So that means that these companies are stealing from everybody. Another rapper you heard, Chameleon Air, he wanted to get out of his contract. So here's another thing: a lot of these big stars, or Chameleon Air is a medium-sized star. I'm not dissing them. When they find out they're being cheated, they don't ask for the money. They ask to be released out of their contract. Same thing happened with 50 Cent and Interscope. When 50 audited, and they found out that they owed him $16 million. They only gave him 2 or 3 million. And so they're like, oh, okay, we'll pay you. He's like, don't pay me. Let me out my contract. Make it so I ain't got to deal with y'all no more. Chameleon Air did the same thing. When he got the same, there's a term for it, the auditor, but there's a I can't think of the term they use for that specific auditor. It's like, forensic auditor, I think it's called. So the forensic auditor came in for Chameleon Air, realized his record company owed him a bunch of money. So they said, okay, we'll pay. Once you bust them with their hands in the cookie jar, then they want to pay you. He's like, don't pay me. Let me out of my contract. That's the biggest thing. Like when and he said, if you don't let me out of my contract, I'm going to tell all your other artists about this forensic examiner I got, forensic auditor I have. They let him out of his contract immediately because they don't want their employees knowing that they're being cheated. And like I said, the biggest tool they have is that fake royalty statement. They give you a fake royalty statement, the same thing they did with Big Pun's wife. And they show that you owe them money. And next year you might make enough to pay us back. And so then you get scared 5 years later and you'll sign some shitty deal like, hey man, I'll just take pennies on the dollar. And like I said, you're signing your rights away. But again, once you get a forensic auditor and they do that, then all of a sudden these artists aren't they're not being taken advantage of. Well, they find out how severely they've been taken advantage of. And that's a big thing. You got to keep these people ignorant. Something that we had joked about in a past podcast is with all those rappers coming out of New York was a factory. The whole thing was a factory, and all the people that were in charge were cheating everybody. I didn't understand. Like, damn, that rapper, it's rappers. I bought their albums and stuff. Like, they ain't getting nothing. And then like one of the biggest lawsuits going is Dress from Black Sheep on the streaming. He said, look, we didn't sign no streaming deal. Streaming didn't exist back then. So he has a huge class action lawsuit trying to help these rappers who were pre 2008 or something like that. because they're like, look, you've been streaming our stuff, just making money on it. And this is something, again, these are conversations that me and Roscoe have off the air. But one of the biggest things out there, somebody said it's so hard to go backwards. And they were talking about with media, you know, CDs were better, DVDs were better. You had something tangible. Um, you gave me a digital copy, so I don't have to rip the CD, because I used to rip CDs. I had a ripper programs for DVDs. I would rip the stuff, and that's why I had so many like movies on my hard drive back in the day, because I'm doing it myself. But I think that we don't realize that when we were able to purchase a piece of media ourselves, now you got the streaming stuff, and suppose that streaming service goes down, which I think it happened with, I forgot, but one of these streaming services went out of business. It was a big company at one time. They went out of business, and now those streaming movies that you own, you can't get anymore. Now I guess somebody else is probably gonna buy their catalog and offer them whatever. But yeah, when you do this streaming shit, I got like over 200 movies or 125 movies that I purchased, and they gave me the digital copy. But if that service goes down, how do I see my digital copy? If Apple goes out of business, how do I see my digital copy? So yeah, what they're doing is they're telling you that these things are better. They're convincing you that streaming is better, is more convenient. It's not. You don't own that media. Hell, you gotta do all kinds of stuff to get a physical copy of something nowadays. I think CDs were better. I think we need to go backwards, and I think that helps the artist better, because at least you can count your CDs. You can't count your streams. When Snoop said he had all those like millions of streams or whatever, and he's only getting 75 cents, some crazy number, that is the biggest hustle going right now.
Many people have the idea that the more impoverished and unpopular a creative person is, the better his work will be. But as a whole, this is a limiting belief. Art does not have to be obscure to be meaningful, and you don't have to starve to be an artist. In fact, studies have revealed that the portrait of a starving artist is a myth. Sure, some artists are not wealthy, but others are rich and live comfortably. Many writers and artists scorn the need to blog or tweet or build an email list. They want to avoid appearing sleazy or self-promotional. But the truth is, artists have always had to worry about getting their work to spread. That's part of the job. And the good ones embrace this. Many writers and artists need to wrap their mind around this concept. So, marketing isn't evil. It doesn't have to be. Marketing is only evil when people use it for evil causes. The good artist serves the audience. The bad artist exploits it. Of course, there is a problem with caring too much about what people think about your work. The best work does not come as a result of giving the market exactly what it wants, but by sometimes subverting their expectations in exchange for something better. This, of course, was the magic of Apple computers. But this is also what made Disney great, and the secret to the magic of the Muppets. People tend to evaluate their experiences of a product or a service based on what is expected. So we need to understand both how we are serving the needs of others. But we can't stop there. Innovation begins with identifying people's expectations, and it ends with exceeding those expectations. You don't have to sell out or starve. There is a middle ground in which you can use money to make art. Elizabeth Hyde Stevens, author of Make Money, Make Art, Lessons from Jim Henson on Fueling Your Creative Career, explains it like this. If we examine Henson's work in earnest, we can find an inextricable quality running through it, a constant that we can rightly call character. These words are not just making a buck for a buck's sake. There's a willfulness in them, a refusal to ever place the market's demands above one's own values. In other words, money makes a better means than master. I'll say it again. Money makes better means than master. Don't give income too much importance in creative work, but give it its due. We need money to keep the lights on and buy supplies, but it's not everything. As novelist Stephen Pressfield says, money buys you another season to create. It gives you time, which gives you options. With access to tools and technology we've never had before, this is truly the best time to be creative. It's also the best time for companies and organizations to leverage the advantages of creative people. Consider these three progressive steps that are worth taking. Let go of the starving artist stereotype. It's not just helpful. It's not helpful. Creativity can come from all socioeconomic levels. And just because an idea comes from a more obscure place does not necessarily make it better. Use the advantages of art to earn the attention of an audience. Then serve that audience with empathy. You will have a built-in market that will help you innovate and grow much more quickly. Use money as a means, not your master. Don't make art to make money. Make money to make more art. Use business to create meaning in the world and to help that work spread.
That's not a fair thing to say because I get what old boy is saying. He's saying that money gives you time to make more art. But no, you need to make your art to make money. If art is your business, whether it's music or physical art,
No.
whatever.
So this is where I disagree with you because he's saying when you focus on the money, the art suffers.
Suffers. No. I
This
understand.
entire part of the conversation is about balance. So you have to balance money and creativity. You have to have enough money so it doesn't hamper your creativity. And so you also have to create so you will have money. It's a balance. Listen, one is not more important than the other because you got to understand, man. Listen, poor ass farmers in Mississippi, in the hill country of Mississippi, they would get off their tractors, get a shower, grab their guitar case, and go down to the juke joint and play. And let me finish my point.
Oh no.
These guys, completely obscure. The world never heard anything from these people before. And they poured their soul into that guitar. And what happened was supernovas, continuous supernovas of creativity. And there isn't a dollar amount that you can put on that. Now, these guys, some of them died in obscurity, but a good chunk of them made a lot of money. But they kept playing their music and they kept doing what it was that allowed them to be creative. Now, of course, they toured and they made money, but when you look at some of these guys and you listen to some of them talk, yeah, they enjoyed making money, but money wasn't the reason that they was making that music.
No, hold it. I get what you're saying. I understand the validity in what you're saying, but take it from somebody who managed a artist before, who everybody takes advantage of the artist. That's a problem. And when I say everybody, you think I'm just talking about the record company?
No. I'm talking about from the limousine driver all the way up to the hotel. Everybody, man.
Everybody. So when I tell you the money is important, is it the most important factor? I'm not saying that.
Yes,
the
but
art
balance is important.
No. There is no balance in this when you have everybody in your pocket. I'm about to give you some personal examples of when I managed an artist. So you have an artist who can rap and sing. She's a girl, big ass titties. So everybody in Nashville wants this person on their song, and I'm like, and so these rappers would say to my artist, "Hey, do a song for me, and I'll do a song for you." And I'm going to explain. Listen to me. I got to explain to my artist that's not equal.
No,
because his shit didn't
they
sell.
want you.
Yeah,
you don't want them.
His shit didn't sell till you did the hook. Do you understand? And it didn't sell a lot. It only sold locally, but that was the biggest song he had. But so him doing quid pro quo is not equal. How many times did they want your artist to perform someplace, didn't want to pay her? I'm like, well, shit, just give her some free drinks. Oh, we won't even do that. So so when I say everybody's taking advantage of them, now to what you talked about, so there was a Mississippi Delta performer. He was a blues performer, did all this great music. Now he's broke, right? He goes into obscurity. This nigga's like 89 years old. He's working as either like a porter on a train or a bus driver. I think it was a porter on a train. Some white guy, younger, just happens to love blues and recognizes this guy. Just goes, "Are you such and such?" He's saying it as a joke. Guy said, "Yeah, that's me." He's like, "What?" Buys him he's like, "No, I don't need a guitar. I got a guitar." He gets the guitar out of his car, starts performing, and that white guy, gets him back on the road, gets him a bunch of money, only because he recognized him. So what you're talking about is that obscurity. I get all that, but you're talking the reason so many of these guys. How many times have you seen an artist just quit? Just I ain't doing this no more, because they were being taken advantage of. You're being pulled in directions that you can't believe. And let's not talk about when your family finds out, or your family sees you in a rap video or in a video, thinking that you
made it.
That you made it, but you ain't made no money because the record company is charging you $16 million for that video. You know what I'm saying? And you haven't recouped yet. So, or how many times did Will Smith, Jazzy Jeff from Fresh Prince, Will Smith went bankrupt because Jeff is like, hey, Will was going into Foot Locker buying everybody's shoes because you got a bunch of videos out there, and he said you think you rich. You don't realize you're not. No, you actually are rich. You're just not being paid adequately. People are in again. When I say that everybody takes advantage of them, it's such a. I got a homie as an artist right now, and this guy is pretty damn talented. Gets taken advantage of all the time. He makes poor decisions. So yeah, what Roscoe is saying is the money is not the most important thing, and I'm like, we got to give it a little bit more because, when the artists start making things for money, yeah, it suffers because they're trying to get the sophomore album, the sophomore slump, it's a sophomore curse. How many of these motherfuckers, have a great first album and their second album sucks? That's because you had your whole life. You had the 27 years of life to make one album. All those experiences in one album. Then you have, 2 years or 6 months to make a second album. Of course it's not going to have the same. You got guys like Kanye that was out there. He said, when I was broke, I was doing a beat every Thursday. So he has 200 beats he made in the past, and he's still using.
Okay. Know how to value the art that you create. Have you ever worked on a commission for a client for less than you usually charge out of fear that they wouldn't pay your full fee?
Oh, man.
Or has a client ever demeaned you to try to get you to work for free or for cheap? This happens quite often, especially when you're still new and insecure about pricing your art fairly. But you need to stand your ground. Hold on. You need to stand your ground or on selling yourself short, because it will keep you poor. You're doing a real job, and you deserve to be paid a fair wage.
You are doing disservice to yourself.
People always want to discount the arts because it's like, oh, this is just some creative thing. You're not a welder. You don't work on the railroad.
No.
You don't repair cars. No. You are this is a real industry that makes billions of dollars a year, and people have to be entertained. So it's a real fucking job. So you can stop that bullshit. Now, sure, people complain it's not a real job and that you shouldn't charge so much for doing something you love, or you should do it for free. That's bullshit. A lot of people have common day jobs that they love, and nobody tells them to do it for free or for less money. So why would you create art for others for free? Long story short, you should not. Unless, that is, you legit want to do it. But not because someone else manipulates you into doing it. If someone steps out of line to get you to work for dirt cheap, by all means, slam the door in their face and move on. Now, undervalued and overworked is a horrible combination. If you need $2,000 to have all your needs covered each month, it will require you to work your ass off if you're selling yourself short. For example, at $20 a piece, you need to sell and complete 100 works of art to reach your revenue goal. Can you imagine working on 100 commissions each month nonstop? That would be a few pieces a day, every day. Not only that, but actually getting 100 people to commission you each month is very, very difficult. And you have to have a really large audience. Now, on the other hand, $100 a piece, you only need to find and work with 20 clients, which is a lot more manageable than 100. At $200 a piece, you only need to find 10 commissions each month, which will give you some breathing space to work on a piece and still live your life. Price your artworks based on the quality of your artwork, how much time and effort it goes to each piece, and the workload you can handle to reach your revenue goals.
You can relate to this. So, I'm gonna give 3 examples. I said two. Let me give you 3 examples. First one, that guy we talked about, Grogu Roach. So he was talking about he's helping this artist out, right? This artist does a song with a big star, Jay-Z, and he's trying to tell him, hey, you got all the leverage. You should be using that leverage. And this guy said, no, I'm not gonna do that. Do you know why? Because he wanted to do another song with Jay-Z, so he took less money. And Jay-Z's
FOMO,
people took
fear of missing out.
Yeah, and so you had talked about so Jay-Z's people took advantage of this guy, and what it is, this guy wants to be Jay-Z's friend or something, and guess what? They never did another song together. That's the biggest song this guy ever had. If he had listened to Grogu, like, hey, he's trying to tell him, you got all the leverage. You produced the track, you did all this. They liked it. They asked to get on it, and you because you want to do another song with Jay-Z, you're taking less money than what you're worth. Another example. Neo. So the song, Beyonce song, To the Left. Neo wrote that song when he was broke. So Beyonce's dad has him sign all his rights away, and it says Beyonce wrote that song. He said, I would never do that again. It's so hard out here, and when you're starving, you oh yeah, he signed all his rights away. So it says Beyonce wrote that song. To the left, everything in the box to the left. That's another example of not knowing your worth. Third example, when you were talking about marketing, I want to bring this up, but I don't remember the guy's name. He's a light-skinned dude. He's a rapper. He was on the Breakfast Club. I want to say something like Bryson Scholar Tiller, one of those young guys. He's older, but he's not a young guy. But he's like, look, he said, when I was with a major, I made this much. He said, but then I got my email list, and I got over 100,000 to 300,000 people on my email list. So I market to my direct fans. These fans go to multiple concerts of mine. I send them exclusive music. I send them free tickets every once in a while. They bring people with them. And so when he went independent, he went backwards. He said, I'm making more money independent than I did because I have direct contact with my marketing base. People that actually are crazy about my music, or people that they even inspire me. They're like, hey, you need to do something with this. And then you go that direction. But he said, well, once I had, I don't sell as much. Kind of like Prince. Prince said, I don't sell as much, but I don't have to. Because these diehard fans will pay $200 for a ticket to my show.
That motherfucker also has a priceless catalog. Let's just keep it 100%.
But I'm trying to address. You were pointing out some very good facts, and these are examples, real life examples of how artists, especially in the music industry, get misused. Period.
Okay.
And
go ahead. So here's the thing. Nightmare clients. You are who you surround yourself with. If you're always working with nightmare clients who lowball you and demean you to get cheaper prices, you will attract even more. If you think you are working with some nightmare clients here and there will be, if you think that you are working with some nightmare clients, there will be the first stepping stone to better clients, and that they will somehow find you, and that you don't need to work with nightmare clients. If you think that, you're in for a disappointment. The more you work with nightmare clients, the more you will attract. There is no sugarcoating it. Whether it's just the universe bringing you more of what you focus on, or whether it's the nightmare clients referring other nightmare clients to you, the point is that you won't be able to work with dream clients until you say, fuck this, and you cut out the lowlifes from your life for good. Now, the problem with all this is working with these scumbag clients is it can drain your passion for art.
You don't feel like it no more. You don't have it in you.
because you're
Uh,
working so much to create your
so
art
little.
and it's not supporting you. It takes your passion away from it, your love away from it, and you start to lose that love. And the reason that you're doing it, this can be dangerous because it can result in physical and mental health problems. It can
I,
also drive you to give up on art altogether and find some other way to make ends meet. Now,
okay,
but
so
here's another thing you understand. Dream clients don't want to invest in you if you don't think you're even worth it.
I'm go. Ah, look. So one of the hardest things, if you grew up a hip hop head like we did, you got tired when people would sell out, or when people would go pop, or people would. You're like, oh, that's not right. But then, speaking with, I understand certain things now. I'm an adult. Um, look. So I've been flipping cars for let's say 10 years now, maybe 12 years. When I sell to a white person, they negotiate like $500 off. I could ask for $6,000. A white person will be like, hey, 5,200. Cool. That's great. Mexicans don't even negotiate. Half the time they come to you, they come to you with a price higher than you expect. But when you deal with black folks, when you deal, or and worse than black folks, Africans, they will lowball you like you wouldn't like. Man, that's offensive. Yeah, I only got $500. Well, shit, this ain't the car for you. But but those nightmare clients, what you're talking about, that's a real thing. Sometimes you think that's what you deserve, or you try to stay in a certain genre or a certain area. Um, Look, when sometimes you got to branch out and find a client for you. You got to go look for them. And sometimes that client who recognizes the value of your product, they're going to pay you more than you expected. Because when you flip a car, you got some. I'm like, okay, Blue Book is 8,000. I should be around 6,000. 5,200 at the worst. But that's what you're dealing with. And when you advertise the right person, and when I say the right person, this person has been looking for cars for about a month for their daughter or their kid, and these dealerships are talking 10 and 12,000, and people on the street are talking 5,000. I mean 10,000, excuse me. And I'm talking seven. They give me that cash, no problem. And you ain't got to negotiate. You ain't got to him haul back and forth. You ain't got to make sure that it's. How about this? You ever do business with these Africans now? You got to make sure that money ain't counterfeit. Like they'll slide three or four counterfeit $100 bills in that motherfucker. Fuck your day up, my nigga. Um, yeah. So when you talk about those nightmare clients, bro, that's a real thing. And sometimes you think that's what you deserve, so you don't venture out. You don't try to change. You don't try to improve your product, or uh, yeah, yeah, that's some sick shit.
One of the most useful things I've heard in a long time is about insuring art.
Yeah.
Once I heard about
Ooh,
that, I was like,
yeah.
that's a game changer right there. Because art
But
is
that,
one of the most valuable and prized possessions in the world. It represents artists' creativity, their skill, and unique perspective, and can hold immense sentimental value and monetary value for collectors and institutions. However, as with any valuable possession, art is not immune to risks such as theft, damage, and loss.
well, don't forget the money laundering.
Yes,
A lot of these reasons these people are insuring their art, such as Jay-Z insuring a piece of art for $100 million or whatever. That's he might only pay 10 million for it, but then he gets it valued by somebody else, and they value it at this, and then he insures it at that. That's a way to launder money.
that's right. So,
Yeah.
art insurance art insurance protects collectors and institutions, covering their artwork against various risks from environmental damage or mishandling to deliberate vandalism or theft. Understanding how art insurance works, the different types of fine art insurance available, and the coverage and exclusions of art insurance policies can help you choose the right policy for your collection. Private art insurance is designed for individual collectors and their art collections. It offers coverage for artwork owned by individuals, families, estates, such as paintings, sculptures, antiques, jewelry, watches, and other collectibles. There's a movie called The Monuments Men, and it has George Clooney and Matt Damon in it, and it's a World War II movie, and it's about this military unit that was given the job to go and round up all of the art that the Nazis were trying to take from these Jewish people, and the art was priceless stuff. It was jewelry and paintings and sculptures, things that were very important. At one scene in the movie, these guys wind up in this vault where the Nazis had stored all this stolen art. And, they have this, altercation and all this stuff. And in the end, the good guys prevail and the art is slowly returned to these Jewish people. But this illustrates something that's very important. These are all things that were created by artists. And the value that they accrue over the years multiplies exponentially. So you have to value your art appropriately because, as we've been discussing here, people will try to lowball it. If you create something that's truly beautiful and you've poured all of your energy and concentration and creativity into this piece of art, then you need to charge appropriately. Charge it like your life is in that. What is your life worth? I'm going to give you an example of something that's somewhat similar. Donating plasma. People have no idea how valuable donating plasma is to you, because that's your life force that you are giving away in bottles for like $70, $30, or $100 at a time. That donating too much plasma will shorten your lifespan. So you have people who just do this like a part-time job and don't realize they're just like the dark crystal and the Skeksis, like getting all the energy out of those little tiny little gelflings, out of those tiny little creatures. They are taking your life force energy. So that same life force energy you pour into music, you pour into visual art, you pour into a script, you pour onto the screen when you make a movie. All these things have your life force in it. What is your life worth? That's what I'm asking you. What's your life worth? Because your art is your life force.
Look, you talking about that plasma stuff? I think they make 5 to 10,000 per pint or something.
That's what I'm telling you. It is a hand over fist, crazy ass scam, dude.
Yeah, and so look, I'm not saying it's not. I'm not saying it's a scam. I'm saying the people they really.
It's a fucking scam. I'm saying it's a scam. It's a fucking.
No, I'm saying plasma is necessary. That's
yeah,
what I'm saying.
But they always sell that to you. They always. How much do you need, man? Like, how many thousands and millions of gallons of this bullshit do you need?
Oh no, that's not. I'm not. I'm talking about that little $175 they give you, or $400 a month for the first month and $200 for the next month. That shit. That's fucked up,
dude. You gotta understand, like, how much pharmaceutical companies rely on this to make all types of crazy things.
That was my point. Yeah.
And so they're not. Whenever you go in there, they always say the same thing. Oh, it's for burn victims. Okay, that's it. It's a lot of motherfuckers getting burned up. If you you've been in business for 10, 15, 20 years, all these burn victims, all these Negroes coming through here, get the fuck out of here, man.
Look, another example of that. Just bear with me. When they were talking about all these record labels, not record companies, record labels back in the day. So you got a record company that gives a label to 2 or 3 guys. Then the 2 or 3 guys give a label to somebody else, and then at the bottom they will give a label to a rapper. And so they're like, you don't understand. All those companies got to get paid. So think about your plasma. So that plasma center got to get paid. Them employees in the plasma center got to get paid. Then the big company that owns them or buys from them got to get. So it's like 4 middlemen for your plasma. So each one of them got to get paid for your plasma, and you get paid the bare minimum. You get paid like pennies on the dollar.
Bottom bitch.
You the bottom bitch. So. Yeah, so yeah. When we were kids, oh man, Hammer got a label, or this guy got a label. We were like, oh, that's dope. We didn't understand that there was 2 or 3 motherfuckers above Universal and Time Warner and all that other shit, and they all had to get paid. I gave you a label. You gave him a label.
You get a label. You get a label.
You get a label. Yeah, same thing. Everybody knows about Akon making so much money because Akon signed 2 people. That he signed
Lady Gaga.
He signed Lady Gaga and he signed T-Pain. T-Pain breaks down that deal in that interview on Drink Champs. He's like, he was getting a signing bonus for everybody he signed. That's why he signed so many people. He wasn't evaluating talent. He was just, he was signing, and he happened to sign Lady Gaga. He happened to sign me. And I guess the other T-Pain was in a group with like he said we was like the down south Wu-Tang. It was like 23 of us in one damn group, and happened to be the one that Akon recognized. Oh, yeah, this guy's gonna be something, and signed me. So yeah, that's why everybody had labels. They were handing them out like a motherfucker. A&Rs, the mother. Yeah, so you got so many people between you and the top, and they all got to get paid. So until you understand that, that's what we mean by value your art appropriately. This independent thing ain't so bad because you make more money at an independent label. You might not sell as much at an independent label, but you'll make more money because that independent label needs you more, and they're going to pay you more to be on their roster. So there's a lot to this art thing, and like I said, the reason we talk about the music industry so much is because so many people provided so much to us, and they're all broke at the end. When Michael Jackson bought all those royalties and started giving them back to the old black artists, that pissed white folks off. What are you doing? So yeah, don't be surprised if we find out Mike got killed, because that's what people are saying. He got killed for a lot of other stuff. But just pay attention, please.
So, a few more things to understand. Pricing your art too low hurts the greater good. When you offer your art for very cheap prices, it affects the overall value of art in the market. When enough people sell themselves short, clients expect other artists to work for dirt cheap as well, damaging the collective as a whole. This is streaming. This is streaming music right here that we're talking about. The streaming concept is based on making companies like Spotify rich, not musicians. You don't make any money off streaming. But the messed up part about this is the major labels get a different royalty rate for their streams than independent artists do. Compare that to the older model where in the record industry, everybody gets a royalty rate that's the same across the board, no matter who you are. In this, they're giving you a different royalty rate because it's based on some greaseball handshake bullshit.
But the streaming services, they want to appeal to the big three record companies too. So that's how they court them. They're like, hey, we want your product, so we'll pay you more. But if that independent artist comes to us, we'll give them 50 cents on a dollar, and we'll give you 78 cents on a dollar. That right there is fucked up.
So when you agree to let clients lowball you, you're giving them permission to do the same to other artists and let them get away with it. It has to stop somewhere. If you have the means to do so, educate them instead on why art is valuable and should be paid fairly. If not, simply block them and move on.
Keep it moving. There's somebody that will appreciate you. Another thing, that if you pay attention to 50 Cent, remember he would go to Africa. He would sell his stuff in Africa. Like, he said there's like 83 countries or whatever over there, and each country has their own record, whatever. He said, go to other places. Your product will sell someplace else. It might sell in Europe, it might sell in Africa, it might sell in Asia. That song Pastor Carvassier. They said Carvassier was dead in Asia. That's why they were supposed to give Busta so much money for that song. And yeah, I can't remember which liquor place it was, but they said they were dead in Asia when that song Pastor Carvassier came out. It blew up.
You finally get a dream client. It's time to raise your prices.
Don't take advantage of them, but yeah, you got a right to get what you got coming.
Right. So understand that once you start making that good money, maintain that. Do everything you can to maintain in that stratosphere. Because once you start, you don't go from like a dream client down to bottom bitch status again. You got to keep climbing up.
Yeah. You might end up there, but still, people will remember your product. You'll get some equity out there.
But that's the whole thing, is that you got to know how to value your stuff and to stop giving shit away for damn near free. I mean, and look, in the beginning, people intern and they take free jobs because they want to get their foot in the door. But you got to get out of that grinding mindset. See, people get addicted to hustle.
Struggle.
They're addicted to hustle. They're addicted to struggle. They're addicted to grinding, and they can't get out of that mentality. Those people really don't take vacations. Seriously. And what happens is life will take you out of the game. It'll give you some type of health scare, which would cause you to reevaluate your mind, body, and spirit connection to this realm. So
Look,
you have to understand what your life is worth and how much of that life you're putting into your art, and then balance your life. I've been talking about balance all through this episode. And you have to balance money with creativity, with quality of life. Everybody talks about self-care these days. Oh, self-care, self-care. Man, I've been doing that for the longest damn time. And listen, self-care is not just smoking weed and relaxing. Okay? No, it's exercising, it's eating right, it's going someplace you've never been before to stimulate your mind. It's
investing your money,
investing in your future.
Yes. Well, hold it. Here's what I want to say before we wrap this up. You're not going to get 2 songs with Jay-Z. Make sure you charge him enough when you get a chance, because that's, I get it. You want to be doing 2 songs with Jay-Z. You want to be Jay-Z's friend. But if you did a song and somebody came to you, then you got to charge them adequately. You got the leverage. And what happens is, as
and
an
guess
artist,
what? That motherfucker got the money to pay for it.
Well, it's not just that. It's the fact that we're convinced that having that the word leverage is a bad word. I remember in that one documentary Nas was talking about. He said, "Yeah, well, we thought capitalist was a bad word. It can be a bad word because that's how they treated y'all. But the only way for you to get out of that circle is to become a capitalist." Charge enough for your product and make sure your product is out to the world, so you got money coming in for the rest of your life and for your kids' lives. But yeah, capitalist is bad when it takes advantage of somebody. That's colonialism, all that kind of stuff. But capitalist, when it comes to the fact that, hey, I'm taking care of my product, which is me, and I'm charging enough, and I'm making. Look, people think Nas is broke, but remember, people don't realize Nas owned part of Pluto TV. So
this motherfucker has his own line of shaving, shaving supplies and stuff like that. Like, this guy has money in all different places, man. Don't think that for a second. It's because you don't see him out there in the world all the time. Like my dad say, don't be foolish.
No, all I'm saying is that he made a shitload of money on Pluto TV. When somebody bought that shit, I forgot how much they bought it for. So there are situations out there that we're not privy to. So we think this or that. Look, what I'm saying is you might not get 2 songs with Jay-Z. So you got to take advantage of it when you can and invest that money. Don't just go buy a bunch of cars and a bunch of houses because that's what you see everybody else do. How many times have you seen these athletes go broke? They got a whole documentary, Broke. Watch it on ESPN, about these athletes, having to pay their parents and buy this and buy that. So yeah, you got to. I messed up when I started working because I just knew that money would always be there. It's not always going to be there. So you got to invest it while you're young, and take care of yourself. You don't think that you didn't need to do these things, but yeah, bro, you got to make better decisions.
So again, this comes around to choices and balance and valuing what you're worth. Now, people listening to this will be at different points in their creative career. I understand that. But these are things that apply for the duration of your life. And you have to apply them carefully through the duration of your life. And then also understand that you have different seasons to your creativity, because you may have things that you have created 10 years ago that you have never released, that you can go into the vault, take that, remix it, and then put it out to the world, and they think it's brand new. Man, I wrote this song in 1999. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's been in the vault for that long. There's shit that goes back that far. But that's what I'm saying. That's using your creativity. That's taking stuff that you've made, photographs that you're in, that you can change and manipulate in so many different ways and tell so many different stories. You are your own multiverse. You got to understand that. You are your own multiverse, that you have so many different ways to tell your own story based on the archives that you have kept. These can be scribbles in a notebook. These can be flyers from shows that you went to. These can be clothing that you had. These can be books that you have, books that you read, pieces of art that you made, sketches that you made. These are all things that if you train this like you have, like your own AI, and you then spit this out and make new stuff, new versions. Between me and this dude on the other microphone here, we have come up with so many crazy fucking ideas that there is a multiverse of things that we have created.
Hundreds. Yeah, hundreds of ideas that we
No.
created.
Way more than that.
I'm just look. I ain't trying to toot my own horn. Toot.
Well,
Yeah.
motherfucker, I'm Fred Wesley right now, motherfucker. I'm tooting my horn.
Okay. So when we say that, we're talking about everything from songs to movie scripts to even products, or like, hey,
especially products.
We grew up on G.I. Joe and cartoons. Like, hey, we would write like a whole, as kids, we would just write a whole episode for ourselves. Like, hey, they never did this one. That's just how we were, because that's when we were into something. When we were into something, we're into it. Like, hey, I would like to see this happen. Even now, when we write scripts, one of the things people ask, well, how do you write? I usually write backwards. I write from the end forward, and they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, look, I think about all the media I've seen, everything from comic books to TV shows to movies, and hear songs, and I'm like, here's something I haven't seen before, and then I work my way backwards and write it from the backwards. Okay, he or she's in this situation. You write it from there. Okay, how did they get into it? Who's the villain? Okay, we ain't seen that before. We ain't seen and you work backwards. I think one of my favorite movies. I think the guy that wrote it might be that Bryan Singer dude might be a goofball weirdo, but Usual Suspects. That's one of them joints where you like. We saw that movie like in '95 or '96, whatever. Fight Club. There were a few movies that came out around that time when we were in college. Pulp Fiction. You had told me, hey man, go see Pulp Fiction. And I remember going to see it in Stillwater. I'm like, oh. And
different.
It was
different shit. But that's the whole thing, is like we have all these things that we can draw from.
all these experiences. Yeah. And even sometimes when it comes to stuff like that, what were you doing when you found out about it? Even that has a like, okay, this hit me this way.
Video game called Street Fighter.
No, children. Okay, so one of my best friends is dead. I've told this story before. There is a version of Street Fighter called X-Men Children of the Atom. And my homeboy was telling his kids we invented that game. There was a white, I went to a black college, I told you, Langston. There was a white dude named Paul. Paul used to intern for Capcom. So one day, me and my boy Dede, we sat down at the Sigma bench and we wrote, if there was a fighting game. First, the reason we did that is because we had did the X-Men movie in our head. We're like, okay, Patrick Stewart will be Professor X.
Got it. Let's wrap it up.
I'm getting there. Look, so this guy one time before the summer we show him our plans for this video game. He goes away for the summer at Capcom, and then that's like March is when we see the game in the arcade, and we try to go talk to him about it. Like, hey, you won't believe what we saw in the arcade. It was just like our idea. The white boy took off running across campus, and we never seen him again. So we started running too because we thought somebody was behind us. Like, oh, somebody chasing us? Nigga, we stupid. No, he knew whatever he did.
He stole your shit.
Paul stole our idea. It's just that simple.
You got to protect yourself. You got to value your art correctly. That's all I got. We out. Peace.
Yo, holla back.